silence my phone here. Shush.
Okay, we're live. Hey, everybody, again, welcome to the podcast part right here with Tom Cosentino and Katrina. Today, I like to say this every day we have a special, every week's a special guest. It's kind of like your children. You love them all. You love them all equally. But Melissa's one of my new kids, and I love her. And we just met yesterday for the first time, and I think she brings something to the Parkinson's community that I really enjoy because she's an advocate, and we all have to be advocates for ourselves, but also for everyone else. So with that, I want to reintroduce you to Katrina. She's been away for a little bit, but she's back and she's better. And little sniffles, but we'll take her with sniffles.
Well, that's just me traveling today. I've been traveling back and forth, and so my allergies are kicking up. And I'm a little tired from traveling, but I'm here, everybody. Hello, how are you this week? And I'm really looking forward to getting to know Melissa. Of course, I love the video she did with that Tom is going to show with "Take on Me," which turns 40
this is the one
year.
video that I really said I got to talk to you.
And that's awesome. So I'm waiting. I love, and I'm waiting to hear her voice on Parkinson's and her journey. And as always, we love to hear people's journey and raring to go. So Melissa, take it from here.
Well, hold on. Let's give it first a little taste of Melissa here. See if we can do this.
As an aside, I actually filmed that at my oldest daughter's house. Like, I think I did that like it was 2 years ago. We went to visit her, where she lives in Arkansas, and I actually was working online at the time. Virtual. I had a virtual job, so I had to work the whole time we were there. But I had a little lunch break, and I was like, maybe I'll make a little video while I'm waiting, because they were out doing fun things. I was stuck at home, and that was the result.
So what did your kids think of it?
My youngest two are so used to it that they're like, cool. My little one, she's like, yeah. My 14-year-old's like, that's cool. Mom tries to be encouraging. My oldest daughter was like, you're so cringy.
Sure.
My son thinks it's great. My son is my oldest, and my son's like, he shows his friends. He's like, look at my mom. Look at all the weird stuff she does.
Yeah, I have a 17-year-old and a 30-year-old. I wondered if your children would say cringe. That would be the word for my 17-year-old. My 17-year-old would say cringe.
So cringe.
Yes.
Like, you're cringe.
Yeah.
Mine are 11 to 31. I have 11, 14, 30,
Wow.
and 31.
So I got a black screen. Did that work?
Oh, yeah. Oh, it was there.
Yep.
Oh, crap.
Oh, there you go.
Always.
Now it's just us.
It's just us.
Is this working?
So what's your history with Parkinson's and
this is
all
what's
of that?
good and bad about life.
Yep. But what's your history, Melissa, with Parkinson's? Of course, everybody has their diagnosis story.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
I was diagnosed at 45 after kind of chasing a diagnosis actively for about 4 years.
Yep.
So 2020, I was diagnosed. They originally thought I had multiple sclerosis, so we went down that route. And turns out that I also needed a hip replacement at the same time, and those symptoms came on at the same time, so it kind of made my diagnosis convoluted, which is one of the reasons why it took so long. I was also still working and in a little bit of denial, so I didn't really pursue it heavily, even though it was weighed very heavily on my mind, because I knew Parkinson's could be an option. My grandfather had Parkinson's. He was diagnosed in the 90s. So I ended up at the visit by myself because it was COVID, and the person I was dating at the time was still working, was not available. And I felt so alone when I got diagnosed, and it was just such a bizarre sort of like, well, Michael J. Fox had it, and he's okay, so you'll be fine, no information, no nothing. That I kind of made a vow to myself that if I could help somebody else, not feel the way I did when I got diagnosed, then that's what I would do. So I started using social media as kind of an outlet for my feelings, and didn't think anybody was going to read it. Of the probably 15 or 16 people that I had on my Instagram, I didn't put it on my Facebook because I didn't want my family to see things if I said something and they got upset, and my grandma's on there and my dad, and that sort of thing. It's on Facebook now, but that's kind of where it went. And I started a hashtag called Parkinson's Looks Like Me to kind of tag all my stuff together. And one day did a post about it, and it overnight I got a call from my friend Chris, and he was like, "What did you do?" So what do you mean did I do? He says, "Have you been on social media?" I said, "No." And all of a sudden I went from like having 3 notifications to having like over 100, and I was like, "Oh!" And it didn't go viral or anything, but it connected a lot of people, and now Parkinson's Looks Like Me is used by people in Canada and Australia and Germany and France, and it's pretty cool. It's led me to a lot of people and back and forth, and we've been able to start conversations that we probably wouldn't have been able to have otherwise. So, and it's a good way to, kind of categorize young onset Parkinson's for social media. It's a good umbrella. So
that's awesome.
Worked out.
That's awesome. That was kind of the story behind the podcast, because I started it during the pandemic. I was diagnosed in 2011. Well, I say diagnosed to 2011 because that's really when my symptoms started. But I chased a diagnosis because everybody kept, trying to say it was a physical. It was my back. It was my neck, because I had had a fusion done in 2010. And so they kept trying to give me physical reasons, but I kept saying I was in school and I was having memory issues and, the word finding issues and, simple words were getting stuck. I couldn't, and all that, and cognitive stuff. And I was a nurse. And so, and I couldn't do my job anymore. And I knew something up here was, off. And so I knew it was much more than just physical. And so, and I was 42, and being a female and being the young, being the age, of course, is the reason why we have to, I think we have, have a harder time getting diagnosed.
Yes.
And so and my husband had to step in. My husband was active duty military, and he, and was working with, in a clinic with the generals and everybody. So he had a little more pull, and he demanded, I saw the chief of neurology. And so he was old school civilian, and he did the best neuro exam of any doctor I had ever had before. And he just saw little things like arm swing, lack of arm swing on one side, and a little bit of difference on my gait. I was, and he said, "Well, I'm going to start you on Cinemet, and if it works, you got Parkinson's. If it don't, then we'll have to do some more, testing." And it worked. So that's how I got diagnosed. So
that's the point that drives me crazy is you can test everything in the world. Nothing's going to tell you have Parkinson's, but if they give you a little 10-cent pill called Cinemet, and you take that and your tremors go down, you have Parkinson's. Yep. It's like, what about the CAT scan, the x-rays, the DAT scans, the blood work, all that good stuff. It's just a matter of take this little yellow pill and let me know if it works.
Yeah, that's how mine was too. It was clinical diagnosis. Arm swing, cogwheeling. He was like, "Okay, I don't think you have MS." I was like, "Okay." He was like, hold on now." His doctor called me and said, "Well, you can still come to the visit, but I'm retiring in 3 months." I was like, "Okay, great," because I waited, 6 months for this appointment. I'm still coming because I'm not gonna wait any longer. Right. And and he sent me on my way. Thank goodness I had a mask on so nobody could see me cry while I was scheduling my next appointment. I was just like, "Have a nice day." Don't pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Sometimes you feel like you're playing what's the one with Monty Hall where you pick behind curtain 1, 2, or 3.
Oh yeah, let's make a deal.
Let's make a deal. Yep.
Let's make a deal. So if your doctor Monty Hall, he's gonna say, "Let's make a deal." It could be Parkinson's, it could be MS, it could be this. It's like you feel like you're in a game show. Just you're a neurologist. Tell me what I have.
My whole thing was, did he think it was MSA or PSP or ALS? And he was like, if it was ALS, he's like, with the you've had your symptoms so long, he's like, you probably wouldn't be around right now. And I was like, okay, so that's good news. I'm going to take that and run with it.
Yeah.
And it's so hard because, every Parkinson's patient has, different symptoms because I don't tremor. I'm not tremor dominant. For me, it's the heaviness and the bradykinesia, slowness, and all that. I'm pretty on right now, but and so it was during the pandemic I started the podcast on myself on my own. It was just audio only because there was so much misinformation during the pandemic, and people were so, like you said, felt alone and felt like they were, and and then of course the people pushing the herbal stuff and and that's dangerous because there are herbs out there that have the L-dopa and stuff.
Yeah.
And all, and I was, the nurse in me also was looking for an outlet as well.
Yeah.
And so I pretty much read Davis Finney book, Every Victory Counts. This is all the symptoms that you have, that you should look for. And of course, I call it a snowflake disease because no two people have the same symptoms. And when I wanted to reboot the podcast, and I went to I guess it was Everett at Davis Finney, and I said, who would be the best fit for a co-host? Because I didn't want to do it by myself, and I wanted to do video this time. They chose Tom, and he's a special man. He puts up with me and puts up with a lot because I do have a lot of things going on in my life.
God, Bill.
I think everyone does.
I like to say, stop telling me all your issues because you're not. If you're trying to make me feel better about my life, it's not working. But I'm glad that Everett did that because for most people who know me, talking to people is not an issue. Walking up to strangers is not an issue. I mean, I believe that strangers is a friend you haven't made yet.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
Yeah, and it's just that's what helps, with having Parkinson's is helping just that one person, if there's some way, and that's what social media can do through the podcast and through what you're doing is an amazing way to touch people. And and I have I've been having wonderful ideas of ways that we can use the podcast and use what we can do to touch to continue to grow and do other things that can help other people with Parkinson's. And I think it's wonderful how you use social media. And my daughter, thinks my ideas are kind of weird because I love to dance. I've always loved to dance. And I've had physical therapists tell me, sometimes the reason I still have some of my balance left is because I was a dancer when I was young. And so, but she of course says that's cringe all the time, constantly, because I want to use music and dance to inspire other people with Parkinson's. Yeah. Don't give up. You can still dance, you can still do it. And while me and my sister were going through the hardest time recently with my mom.
You mean if I have Parkinson's I can learn how to dance?
Yes, of course. I told you can still body groove. Anybody can do it.
Nobody's watching. That's the way to do it.
Yep.
Last week I went out to water the garden outside. We have some raised beds outside that we put up when we moved in the fall, and the kids were all inside. It was a weekend, so it was Greg's son and my two girls, and I'm out there and I found some I think it was Crunk 2000s or something. So, there's me listening to the most ridiculous music for a mom in my headphones because, potty words, even though they've heard them all because they are my kids, and I'm doing some stupid doom, 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 shake your laffy taffy, but only I can hear it. And I'm like, well, no one can see me, the fence and whatever. I come inside and my daughter's got this big smile on her face, my 14-year-old, she goes, "You're listening to some music in the garden and dancing, were you?" And I was like, "Saw me, huh?" And Greg's son goes, "What song were you listening to?" So I played it a little bit. He goes, "Oh yeah, okay, now I see why you were doing that dance. It makes sense." It's like, oh well, at least I got that.
So my daughter went to Coachella.
Oh God.
My daughter went to Coachella this year, and before I talked to her about it, I looked up who were the artists that were playing. So I impressed her and I said, "Did you see this group?" Because she goes, how do you know that group? I said, "Well, I just listened to that group." She didn't realize that I Googled everything at Coachella.
Yeah, they do. They've got old school people too. That's not just new bands. They've got Coachella's got some good groups. Mm-hmm. I make my kids listen to all sorts of stuff. The other day I found a cover of Tiny Dancer done by Florence and the Machine. And she's got she has a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful voice. And I was like, all right. I was like, we gotta listen to the note. I was like, you gotta, because they always know which one is my favorite note, because that's the part of the song I'll sing over and over again. I'm like, you gotta hear the note. You ready? You hear it? I'm like, oh, it's so good. And I want to listen to it so much that my little one, who's autistic but is very like gifted, weirdly musically, like for intonation, she'll hear the note, and if I sing it wrong, she'll go, ooh, bad note. And she even went, ooh, good note. And I was like, oh, see, I told you it was good. Even Elena says so. The seal of approval. She's got that ear.
I had one of the most. When I was in high school, I used to go to the VFW like Sunday morning to clean up from the event Saturday night. And this was way before Walkmans and boom boxes and everything. This was in the 70s. So they had a jukebox. And the jukebox for like $1 would play the entire Al Jolson collection. So as I was cleaning up by myself, it took me a couple hours. I just listened to Al Jolson. And in some respects, I've become an Al Jolson fan. I like him. I like some of his stuff. I like big band, Glenn Miller. I like good jazz. I'm more of a softer rock kind of guy. I don't like hard rock. I never really cared for the AC/DCs and Black Sabbath. I never got. Although, if you ever find yourself in a CAT scan and that booming noise it makes, boom, 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 boom.
Oh yeah.
Just listen to the booming noise. Start thinking about Black Sabbath, Rush, and then suddenly it starts to sound like it's like a hard rock. And then I fell asleep in one once because of that.
I thought it sounded like a video game, like a pee, 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 pee. You feel like you're inside a video game. It's bizarre. I was like, that's like Star Wars in here. This is fun. The guy's like, are you okay? I'm like, no, I'm having a good time. They gave me some Billy Joel and choice of Billy Joel.
My favorite though, I did a research study on smell because I lost my sense of smell, and they put like little oxygen tubes in my nose and stuck me in the MRI. And they were going to introduce some different smells and see how my brain reacted, which was to me fascinating. So they pulled me out after like 40 minutes. I'm like, so when are you going to start introducing the smell? And they say, we've done it already. I'm like, because I got nothing. And I'm like 25% Italian, and it's all right here for the views in the world. It's like, this is my Italian. And they also gave me a scratch and sniff, and I did like nothing.
We do that with Mr. Sketch. When I was in school, they had the Mr. Sketch markers, the scented ones. And Mr. Sketch was like the holy grail. If you had them at home, you were like the coolest person. I never had them at home. But because I want to be the cool mom, not really, but I am though. I got my girls Mr. Sketch, and every so often they'll pull them out and they make me do the smell test. And they're like, which one is this? I have to close my eyes. They're like, which one is this? And I'm like, some of them I have no idea. Some of them I'm glad I can't smell because like I hate the smell of banana, and one smells like banana. So they'll hold the banana one right underneath my nose that they've written on my nose like so many times, and they're like, which one is this? I'm like, well, I know because you're trying to shove it in my nostril that it's probably banana because I hate that one. And they're like,
so what you just said, you have great kids. I love the fact that they feel comfortable enough and you feel that to have fun with that.
Oh yeah, we joke about it, like my son, who's incidentally calling me, I'm like, it's early for him. He should be at work. He makes jokes about it. And when I came home and I got diagnosed, he goes, well, what are you going to do now, Mom? Like, what's next? I said, well, there's no cure. So he's like, and he was so upset, you see his face kind of, and that hurt me. When I see my kids cry and over something I can't control, that hurt me. I said, well, I guess I'm just going to have to change the world. So my son says all the time that's what I'm doing is changing the world, because I just make a joke out of it, and it's not a joke, but some things you know how it is, like dark humor, and some things about Parkinson's are laughable. Where I'm walking around like a T-Rex for the majority of the day. Like, how can you not play Jurassic Park to this? How could you not do that? Like, it's important.
Do you remember an old TV movie with Michael J. Fox, Teen Wolf or Teen Werewolf, I think it was called? So I once took a picture of him as the werewolf and said, one of the leading indicators that you were going to have Parkinson's if you were a teenage werewolf. And some people said that was very insensitive. I was like, what do you mean it's not insensitive? It's a joke. It's funny. And I'm sure if Michael J. Fox saw it, he would laugh and say, that's funny.
He'd probably laugh.
Oh, yeah.
He probably get a kick
But
out
you know,
of
the
it.
night that the night that I was officially diagnosed was February in 2016. It was an afternoon appointment. I remember coming home and I feel like shit. You know, of course you feel like shit.
Always.
So I'm laying in bed, I'm watching TV Land, and I saw an Archie Bunker episode. I'm like, God, this is funny because you got to laugh at Archie Bunker. And then I saw another show,
Yeah.
Archie Bunker. And I said, well, I'm going to watch one more show and then I'm going to call it a night. I swear to God, the theme song of Michael J. Fox Family Ties came up as the next song. And I just remember looking at the ceiling and saying, this ain't effing funny. And then I turned the TV off.
Like, it's like the irony. It's just the irony of the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
When I got diagnosed, I got the song "Hook" by Blues Travelers stuck in my head for 6 months. I don't know why. Maybe because like trying out new medication was kind of like, to me, it was like Groundhog's Day. Like I was just starting over and over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it was indicative of that song. But I tell you, I cannot listen to that song to this day. I'm like, no, I had listened to that song in my head for 6 months. I'm not hearing that song. The brain is a weird place. The irony of Parkinson's can be comical from time to time. And teaching my kids to kind of laugh about the things that some people may not laugh about is it makes it easier for them to talk about, you know, because it's just another thing that mom does. It's not this big, huge, like the other night I inadvertently took my medication too soon, and it threw me into a bout of dyskinesia that made me think like that I might need to go to the hospital because I was convinced that I could not breathe. I was in fact breathing because I was shouting out like long sentences of words, and Greg kept saying, take a deep breath. And I'm like, I am. He told me later on when I calmed down that I was going, meanwhile, I thought I was going, so when I got up in the morning, I was just a mess and I hadn't slept all night. We were both tired. And he gave me his cane because he was afraid that I was going to, you know, trip myself up and just to be cautious. So they see the cane and they immediately get alarmed because I haven't used it in, I think, 2 years since I got my hip surgery. And I'm like, oh, it's fine. I told them, I should have just been, I told them, I said, don't worry about it. It's just an accessory. I just decided to be more stylish this morning. And they just looked at me like, no, like, you're not convincing us. I was like, all right, I really don't feel well. I was like, but let's just get this done. Let's just do it. Come on, we're doing it. You know, we did what we had to do. It's just another thing that mom does. That's all it is.
Yeah, it was like when I had DBS in 2021, and when the first day they turned it on, we were in the doctor's office, and they turned it too high, and I like froze, and I couldn't talk, I couldn't speak or anything, and then they finally got it adjusted, and my husband goes, "How can I do that at home?"
Yeah.
And like, can I have that switch where I can do that at home so she can't talk?
My wife is waiting for my voice to get lower. Most
Yeah.
people with Parkinson's. She can't. I mean, if you got to have Parkinson's, she goes, at least get your voice lower.
It has side benefits.
I have an inside voice, which is most people think is speaking really loud, but that's my inside voice.
That's my son. I always tell him, I'm like, inside voice. He's like, this is my inside voice. I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot. I tell me he has voice modulation. My kids like the handicap spot, you know, which I don't usually park in the handicap spot unless I'm really like symptomatic. I don't feel like I need it, and I could use the extra steps. So as a rule of my own, like I prefer not to, just because I'd rather walk because I need to walk. There are a lot of times with apathy that I don't want to leave the house, so I need to get those steps in while I'm out. But if I'm not feeling well, or if it's a particularly hot day, I mean, today, like the real feel is 100 degrees here in the Houston area. So we'll use the handicap spot. And Greg needs it because he's got some shuffling of his gait and stuff like that. So, but the kids think it's great. They're like, yeah, close parking spot.
Well, I play pickleball.
People with 3 young kids, and people are like, hey, how's it going?
I play pickleball indoor, and they have parking spots. There's like 6 spots and 2 handicap spots. And if the spots are filled, I just go to the handicap. Someone said, you can't do that. I said, what do you mean? You tell me last time a handicap person pulled into this spot to go play pickleball. I don't think it's going to happen. So I'll take my chances. They're like, they just look at me and say, shut up. I said, well, it's like, tell me, when's the last time somebody in a wheelchair played pickleball?
It's not going to happen. Like, It's just fun. It's just funny though. Because, for me, like, I wear dresses all the time because I can't decide what I want to wear. So I've discovered that if I wear a dress, that's one garment. Like that's one thing I have to pick out, and then we just cover everything else underneath, and we're good to go. Wear the same shoes all the time just because they match everything, and it just makes it easier for decision making. But now you see this mom in a little sundress and with young kids, and she gets out of her car and she's got a full face of makeup, and they're like, you get one of those like, what? Look at this perv, part. And I'm like, sorry, and then I hold up, my good friend Mr. T-Rex, and they're like, oh yeah, okay, Godzilla, okay, I get it, like, I'm like, sorry, Parkinson's a real bitch, and they're like, oh well. Like,
Well, I sort of do similar for adults. I have my own form of adults Garanimals. You remember Garanimals, the little tags, so they match. So I went one day. I have like Monday is my khakis. Tuesday was my olive drab khakis. Wednesday was khaki. Thursday was blue khaki, and Friday was khaki. I didn't go into the office much, but like usually on Fridays. And someone asked me once, "Do you only own one pair of pants because you always wear khakis?" So then I had to tell about the whole khaki theory and about how in my closet I would have a pair of khakis and 2 shirts that go with it. Pair of khakis, 2 shirts, pair of khakis. So that was my adult Geronimos. I would just take the khakis. I had the 2 shirts, and it made just rotate it. It made my life really easy.
Yeah, everything's interchangeable. When I was still working out, everything was black. All my clothes were black, and my daughter said to me, Mom, do you have to wear black to work? And I said, no. She goes, why do you only wear black? She said, are you emo? And she was little then. She was like 9 or 10. And I said, no. I said, I just wear it that way because now everything matches. And she was like, oh, you know what? This kid now, that all she wears is black. I said, why do you wear black, Alexa? She says, well, everything matches. I was like, smart. See, that's how we do it.
That's right. Everything goes except for khaki shirt doesn't go with khaki pants. Unless, khaki never works because then you look like you're delivering the mail.
Yeah, khaki.
No khaki.
Yes, Trevor.
And then if you read in khaki, then you're a Target employee, like then you work at Target. It's like, I worked at Target. We did the red and khaki, you blend in.
Have you ever heard of Kizik's shoes?
Yes.
Those are awesome. I have 2 pairs of those. You don't have to use your hands. You can just stand up and step right into them. Oh.
I have a pair of Skechers like that. When I had
that's what I got the Skechers. Yeah. I thought the memory foam they sold me with the memory foam, but I actually regret them. I'm looking at them right behind me. I regret them because the memory foam actually doesn't go all the way to like the tip of the shoe. Like there's a little bit of a lip, and that tiny bit of a lip sets off my Parkinson's initiated sensory issues that I never had before. And I feel that tiny little lip all the time when I wear those shoes. So the only thing I use them for is to go out and look at the garden. Just kick them on, and then they stay right here by the back door. Like they don't move. I'm like, every time I look at them, I'm like, I'm gonna have to get the Kizik's instead.
I had to reflect on something when I got excited over a pair of slip-on Skechers. That was exciting. And I looked at my wife. I said, "You realize what my life has been reduced to? I get excited when I get a pair of slip-on shoes. It's like,
right? You're like,
God, you're children."
The other day we had a whole conversation at lunch about rollators. We saw this lady go by, and Greg and I were sitting there eating. We were at Chipotle, and we were like, "Ooh, that's a nice one." And she heard us, and she kind of just stopped, and she was like, she kind of made like a pose. We were like, "This is nice."
The rollator, that's a walker.
Too much.
Well, I remember when I first got diagnosed, I was going, in my mind's a mathematical mind. I think in seeing decision trees, but I remember understanding how it's progressive disease. So I'm thinking, okay, progressive is a geometrical increase, not a linear increase. Right. And I started thinking, if I'm like Parkinson's at 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, I'm thinking in my head, can I plot that progression to see where it's going to take me? At one point, I went to see a Parkinson's trainer. Actually, I knew the guy. And he asked me a very good question. He goes, "Tom, when do you see yourself in a wheelchair?" I said, "Honestly, it's funny you say that. I don't, but I see myself with a really badass cane like little lines
Yes.
on top
Nice
of the
one.
cane. That's what I see. But he made the comment, which really was for me, was he goes, everyone's going to end up in a walker. Everyone's going to end up in a wheelchair or a cane. And he says, you get older, everyone's going to do that. And it was like his way of saying, deal with today. Don't worry. You can't worry about tomorrow, things you can change.
It's true. I tell people all the time, like, okay, so you have a degenerative disease, so what? And they're like, what do you mean, so what? I'm like, life is a degenerative disease. You're not going to throw it away, right? They're like, no. Like, then just live it. That's what. It's not easy. It's not that simple. But the crux of it, that's what you've got to do. So then you just do it.
I think for me, when I was diagnosed, I worked for 4.5 years, and then the stress of the job I just couldn't do the job.
Yeah.
And so when I still don't know if I was fired, quit, or I still don't know how I left the company. I just know I left the company. But I lost my identity when I left the company, and I fell into this deep, like I didn't know who I was anymore.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that I don't want to be known as Tom, the guy with Parkinson's, because that's not something I think. But I'm like, I used to be Anna's father, Justin's father, Sandy's husband, used to be the guy at work. And now the kids are in college, or they're in college or they're away. So I'm their dad, but not really their dad every day and all that. And I just had my first, my quarter life or 2/3 life crisis. And for me, it was just, I remember just looking in the mirror and saying, let's examine your life, Tom. You live here. This is your wife. These are your 2 kids. And when you look at that all together, yeah, you have Parkinson's. People have worse disease. People have no disease. You just can't live your life as a Parkinson's person.
Yeah. It's not healthy.
Mm-hmm.
I know when I was playing pickleball, I started playing pickleball about a year ago. And I played tennis in high school. That was like 50 years ago. So I slowly picked up the game, and I gotten better, but I started developing friendships there. And, because pickleball for us is social as much as it is everything else.
Sure.
So I decided to come out of the Parkinson's closet, so to speak, because I didn't want to be known as the guy with Parkinson's on the pickleball court. And at first it was hard because I didn't know how they were going to see me, but they saw me. Actually, what was the funniest thing is I call him Bill because he calls me Tom. I said, Bill, I just blew a shot. I mean, it was horrible. I was like embarrassed I blew a shot. And Bill yells, hey, Tom, don't blame it on the Parkinson's. You just suck. And at that moment, it's funny because at that moment, I knew it was acceptance.
Yes.
Because when you get to a point where you laugh at somebody like that.
Oh, yeah.
And I didn't say anything. And there was a 2 weeks ago, we're playing outdoors, and I'm trying to tie my shoes and do the double knot, and my fingers really weren't helping me. And one of the guys I played with said, in all sincerity, he goes, do you need any help? And I'm thinking, I said, first of all, I'm not going to have a guy tie. I'm 65. I'm not going to have somebody tie my shoes on the pickleball court.
That's how I feel.
But afterwards, I went up to him. I said, no, I'm good. Thank you. His name is Bob. I said, Bob, I just want to say thank you. He goes, for what? I said, you reached out. You saw I was having an issue. You offered to help. That is what you did is simple but powerful. And to me, I like to find simple things that have power behind them.
It's true.
This is my little pin called the 110 Club. So, I told you. So for those in the listening audience, all 3 of you, when I was going to we had a pedaling for Parkinson's class, and at the end of the class, we worked on our loud, big and loud, where we go A-E-I-O, and we sell the U as loud as we can. There was a decibel counter in the room because some of these spin instructors are like having a baby on the couch. Oh, the way they yell. So I noticed that when we did the U at the end, the decibel reader went up, and I love to instigate things. And I'm like, hey guys, look at that. It went from like 70 to 80. Let's see if we can go from 80 to 90. And we were hovering around 95-ish. And this guy, Paul, said, Tom, why don't you get on the bike in front? Because you've got the biggest voice in the room. And I don't know if that was a compliment or an insult, but I took it as a compliment. And we hit 110 decibels. And when we hit 110 decibels, the place erupted. It's like you won the Super Bowl. And I'm thinking to myself, and then I went out and I bought these pins. I gave everyone the pins. I don't have any more, but I also got some pins made, the back row boys, because there's like 8 of us that sat in the back, and we were the back row boys.
That's hysterical. I never thought of giving. I made mine. These are mine. Little Parkinson's looks like me.
Oh yeah.
I give them to people every now and then when I run into, somebody. I'm like, I don't run into a lot of people like my age with Parkinson's, but every so often, I'll find somebody and be like, hey, let me give you a pin.
Yeah, I'm a tweener. I was 56. You guys were obviously clearly young onset, and I'm not like a 7-year-old white guy that got. So I call myself a tweener. So sometimes, like today, I'm the eldest person in the room. Sometimes when I do a different group, I'm the youngest person in the room.
Yeah.
And I always find that pretty interesting with the Parkinson's dynamics.
That bothers a lot of people when they're newly diagnosed and they go into like group sessions or meetups and stuff like that. But it never really bothered me because when I had my children, I was the young mom. So I was always the youngest person in the room. And then now and because there's such a gap, there's 15 and 16 years between Christopher and Alexis. There's 19 and 20 years between my oldest and my youngest, Christopher and Elena. There's 19 and 20 years. So now I'm the old mom, so now I'm the oldest person in the room and the most decrepit. So I'm like, ooh, I'm raising the bar. So it never really bothered me, but
I try to find humor in everything. When someone says, you're looking good, I'm like, no, see, you don't. I always look good. I'm looking better. Because there's a way, it's my way of joking with the fact that, and some of my pet peeves, I think we all have them, is when someone says, for having Parkinson's, you look great. Or my aunt had Parkinson's, and you're not anything like my aunt.
Like, I have Parkinson's,
some point,
but you look good.
You look good. Did you lose weight? Yes, because this is a good workout. Every day I'm doing this.
I said I had Parkinson's. I didn't say I was ugly.
Yeah, well, again, this is the money.
I tell people
someone asked me once, so I ever felt myself.
If they wear glasses, you could just say, like, do me a favor, never change your prescription. Oh, well, thank you. Don't put your glasses on. Just we all wear glasses.
There's a T-shirt that I want. It says, "No, I'm not drunk. I just have Parkinson's."
Oh, I love that one. I've seen that. Who has that? I think.
But it might be
that one. I just bought one that says, "No fries do not come with this shake."
I like
and it's got a French fry and a shake. I was like, "This is great. This is great."
Especially
we went to Davis Finney sponsored a leadership conference, and we went to Minnesota. And I remember walking into the bar, and just say it was Katrina, and she's got her tremors. I'm like, "Hey, do you have Parkinson's? Or are you just happy to see me?" I'm so excited. And one guy once said to me, he goes, "I never realized. I always thought you were just not a deep person who just told jokes." I'm like, "Oh, Joe, I'm so far away from that. That's not even the same. You're not even the same ballpark. I am very deep, and I don't tell jokes. I do humor. A joke is, a rabbi, a doctor, or whoever walking to a bar. That's a joke. But making connections within the many things and then throwing them out, to me, is good humor. And I can hopefully find that humor can help people laugh.
I think equalizes it, yeah.
When you find humor in your life situations, that's what it was. And when you can find joy, even when you're going through the hardest times. It was like my sister posted this 20-second little video of my mother. My mother has end-stage COPD. And so she's on oxygen and everything, but she loves the song Proud Mary by Tina Turner. So my sister put it on YouTube, and my mom was getting up and doing her little dance, and I'm sitting there on the chair, and I'm doing the arm dance because about me and balance don't always get along.
Yeah, the arm dance is good.
So she posted it. My mom usually doesn't like to be shown with her oxygen on social media, but no, she said, "Post it, keep it up." And it is, and it was in the middle of my father being in the hospital and us going through a really hard time. But it's like when you can just find that joy, and usually a lot of times for us it's in music. Sure. And just and my sister was badly singing karaoke in the background, but we were just that little spark. That's the way to get through anything.
it's always there. You just have to look. You have to look for it. I tell people all the time, like, so you just look for the light, and they're like, "Well, I can't see it." I'm like, "But it's there.
It's there. It's
When
always
you're
there.
ready, when you're ready to see it, you'll see it. Like it's there. It's hovering. It's waiting for you. Like you just, when you're ready to open your eyes, you'll open your eyes, and you'll see it
Every time.
My younger sister made a comment once. It goes, she was talking to my wife. She goes, the problem with Tom is he doesn't care, and I do care. But certain things, like you said, if I'm going to enjoy my life with Parkinson's, and I'm going to try, I don't care if somebody doesn't like me for that reason. I'm not afraid of social norm. To me, social norms is something to play with. It's like an opportunity to engage.
Not interested in normal.
There's no such thing as normal. No.
There's no normal. What's normal? What's normal for me may not be normal for you. Then that's not normal. There's no such thing. Like it's a misnomer.
I was filling out this Parkinson survey for a potential study, and I was curious because I thought I fit, but at the end where it says self-identification, he, him, she, her, other, and I put alien life form, ELF. And someone said, I told it to somebody. They said, well, that's really, how could you do that? I said, because I'm just trying to make fun of it. If someone can self-identify as a man, woman, whatever, and not to say anything, but I can also self-identify as an alien because that's what I do.
Fair.
I'm like from another world, and I do have like someone. I was a big X-Files fan because I believe the truth is out there.
Older.
As you get older, I feel like there's things that we've seen in life that just don't have an explanation, and you could go either way. You could go spirit, right? Like, yeah, a lot of things. Parkinson's is maybe it's just a ghost. Maybe we're all just haunted. Who knows? I know sometimes I feel haunted. That's for sure.
Do you ever see that commercial where you live for the Parkinson's hallucination? I forgot. I can't remember the name of the medication.
Nuplazid.
So there was a commercial that was running where it showed a really old person seeing things and hearing things, and it was such. And I remember I was livid by that, and I quickly changed the channel. But I was at a Parkinson's symposium, and guess who was sitting right next to me? The people from that drug company.
Oh gosh.
We have to talk, and I'm like, I said, first of all, I said, you know this commercial, and he's like, well, we have a couple commercials. I said, do you have any commercials that portrays an older Parkinson's patient as having hallucinations? Yeah, we have that one. I said, when you don't tell me you don't know the commercial, that's the commercial. I'm like, you got to understand something. That is the most offensive commercial for a drug that I've ever seen in my life. You're trying to scare people into going to buy your drug. And so I said, listen, I know you don't make decisions, but on behalf of the entire Parkinson's community, I haven't met anybody who likes that commercial. Not only is it insulting, but the meaning, but you've pissed off all the people you want to help.
Right.
Because you're portraying us in such a negative.
But people don't get it when they get upset about that. Sometimes they're like, why are you upset about this? Like this happens, and we're like, we know this happens, but this is not the only thing, and you can't use scare tactics to get people to do things.
I like the thing about why people accept, because I don't accept anything. To me, when someone says no, that's just an invitation to start bargaining. Because I don't believe in the word no. I usually like to tell people, just do what I ask you to do. I'm usually right, and nobody gets hurt. I miss those days. It's just really miss those.
I always thought I used to fight. You know how they say, I used to fight for my opinion, and I wanted to be the person who was right. Now that I've gotten older and I've gained some perspective, and Parkinson's has given me that, although I would not like to admit that it's given me anything that's beneficial. Yeah. And with perspective, I know I just want people to prove me wrong. Like, I don't care if I'm right. If I'm wrong, that's cool. Now I want you to prove me wrong. So like, I'll take the opposition side just as practice to build neuroplasticity and just create, so I'll be the guy that's like, no, I don't think that's a thing. I don't think that's a thing. And maybe I do think that's a thing, but I'll argue about it just so you can prove me wrong. Now I know how to think. And now I know how to think the opposite way. Now I know how other people think too. And then that gives me more perspective. It's good for the
And the
brain.
way you said that, that is the sexiest thing I've heard out of a woman's voice in a long time.
Neuroplasticity, it's my favorite word.
Yeah, I like that. Well, the fact that, and this is what I liked about your podcast and I like about you is the fact that you are an advocate. You're going to advocate for what you, and we're all here advocates.
Oh,
We
yeah.
advocate for what we think is right for the Parkinson community.
Right.
And if that means you're uncomfortable with me as an advocate, like I generally don't wear this shirt outside because I don't want to, again, be that guy. But I will advocate the hell out of something. I remember I was at this little outdoor festival and talking to somebody, and the Parkinson's subject came up, and I heard a lady say, my husband has Parkinson's, but he doesn't get off the couch, and he just accepted the fact that he's got Parkinson's. So I'm like, well, let me ask you a question. How does he eat? She goes, what do you mean? I said, if he never gets off the couch, how does he eat? How does he go to the bathroom? He goes, well, I feed him. I said, well, stop. You're not going to like this, but you're the problem.
Yep.
Tell your husband, put the food on the dinner table. And if he wants to eat, get his butt out of the chair and go eat. I know you're trying to be helpful, but you're actually, in the long term, you're doing more harm than you are good. And she was offended by that. And I'm like, I'm sorry if I'm offending you, but the reality is people with Parkinson's can suffer depression and other things. And you can't let that become the norm. You have to push back.
It's true.
And I like to say, for family and friends, I have no shame. I'll do whatever I need to for family and friends.
Yeah, if you've got to be that guy and you have to be the jerk, then you have to be the jerk because that's what's good for you. When we first moved here, you're talking about two different demographics. We moved to Texas from Pennsylvania. So Greg had his way of doing things, and he was divorced and basically just spent time with his youngest son, where I had a house full of noise, and he's got all sorts of like sensory issues with noise because he's an ex-police officer and things like that. So it kind of is triggering for him. So the first few months that we were living here, he's upstairs with noise canceling headphones, and I'm like, well, why don't you come down? Why don't you come downstairs? I'm down in the chaos, just like the king of chaos down here, just creating all sorts of nonsense. And so, but slowly but surely, I was like, oh, you want to have dinner? Okay, yeah, here's dinner in the middle of this chaos. Here's this in the middle of this chaos. Now he just comes down and he's like, yeah, I'm gonna bake some bread, and he'll just do what he needs to do. And if the kids want to make a lot of noise, they'll just go upstairs. So he figured it out. But yeah, sometimes it's what you have to do.
I found that when I can't go to places like BJ's, Costco, IKEA, I can't live in there for more than 30 minutes because there's so much noise and there's so much people. There's so many people. I want to go into a Costco with a bullhorn and say, listen, folks, this is how we do it in America. We walk in a single file line. We don't, single file line. We don't walk abreast, single file. And no, don't stand around the sample tray for a half hour because someone's going to give you a little cocktail wiener about this big because you're caught in your butt. And for God's sake, just stop it. I knew if I do that, I'll probably get kicked out, but that's my mission in life.
I put on headphones because a friend of mine who has Parkinson's but has had ADHD his whole life told me that, because I used to say to him all the time, excuse me, I would say, I feel like I have ADD. Excuse me. Gosh. I'm like, I'm now, the shiny things are distracting me and I have squirrel brain. We'll all just shout out squirrel. We have a group meeting on Sundays and it's just somebody goes off on a tangent. And we're like, squirrel. We're like, oh, okay, we'll be back on track, But he said that loud, playing music loud in your ears, which is obviously not good for your ears. So let's not go crazy.
No.
But I play loud music and it distracts me from the distractions. So I can go into the grocery store and I can be that single file line guy. And I don't see all the shiny things on side because I'm listening, I'm drowned out by drowning
It's
pools.
like white noise for everything.
Yeah, it's perfect. It works so well. Those little hacks.
Well, I was reading.
I'll have to remember that one.
I love to do reading on different things. And there were studies that show if you listen to classical Baroque music, I don't know, because I have no musical ability. If it's the tempo, whatever it is about classical Baroque, it helps your mind focus. So when I was in school or working, I always had classical Baroque music playing. Just in a sense, it seemed like it made my brain more orderly. I don't know if that's true or not. It was just an urban legend. But I like your idea of going in there because I generally, if it's Costco or IKEA, I'll tell my wife after a half hour you can find me in the cafeteria. You can stay as long as you want, but after a half
Well,
hour,
get my
BJ doesn't have a
lingonberry jam. I'm
cafeteria,
out
so
of
I'm
here.
sorry. Yeah.
I have to do it quick. The girls know, like we go to the store, like they like to go thrifting. I didn't think they were going to. I used to go with my mom all the time. And one day I just wanted to pop in, like, that's my impulse control addiction is like shopping. So I'll go to the thrift store and fill my cart full of stuff, and then I'll talk myself out of it. It's like a game. So I took them with me one day thinking that I was just going to run in, and my littlest one actually put it together. She was like, wait,
Because you
if
didn't
I
want to
come
spend.
here and buy these things, I
Yeah.
can get more things for this $10 that you gave me. She's like, Mom, you gave me $10 at Target, and I only got one thing. And I got 5 things here. And that was it. They were addicted. But they know when we go to the thrift store, it's fast and furious. So they make a beeline for the things that they know that they like. And they pick them up quick. I'm like, got your stuff, you got your stuff, you got your stuff. Are you within your budget? All right, let's get out of here. That's it. 30 minutes. We're done. Whatever you got.
For me, it's Dollar
I used
Tree.
to take the kids. I did most of the grocery shopping. I did most of the shopping in my family because my wife doesn't like to grocery shop, and I have a list. I remember the kids, and we're going in the cereal aisle, and can I get Lucky Charms? Can I said, let me see. No, it's not on the list.
Not on
you
the
can only
list.
get what's on, and they believe me. Now,
That's such a
so
dad
when they
thing.
realized that you could buy things, well, it was funny because when you realize that you can buy off the list, it's kind of the same reaction when you find out there's no Easter Bunny and there's no Santa Claus. You feel so that you've been betrayed. What do you mean? What do you mean?
See, my kids, my oldest two, their dad was always, he was the list guy. I was not the list guy. So they'd be like, so when they started shopping with me, they were like, can I have this? Yeah. Their dad was like, nope, you got to do the list. Me, I'm like, oh yeah. And he's like taking things out, I probably drove him nuts. I was like, oh well.
Well, this is gonna be super nerdy on my part, but my grocery list is on a spreadsheet so I can filter it. I have one filter for everything in the house is pantry, refrigerator, freezer, spices, and then I have another filter where those things are at the score. So if I'm going there, it's like a mission. I'm in, I go in, I don't take no prisoners, I don't hurt anybody, and I get the hell out.
Go.
That's the military in you.
The list says honey bunches of oats. You can get honey bunches of oats, but it doesn't say Lucky Charms.
If it's not on the list, you can't get it. That's how it goes.
Looking back, I can honestly say what I miss more is the kids, the school events, the choir, the courses, the plays. They both played sports. I remember I found a picture of my daughter and I much younger, and I recently sent it to her. I said, I just wish we could go back to this time. And I just really wish I could go. Yeah, I just want to go to Mayberry RFD. Hey, Andy. Hey, Gomer.
Right? It would be so nice.
I just want to sit on the front porch and say hi to my neighbors as they walk by and not worry about having to lock my front door.
You'd have to come to Virginia for that.
You could change the demographic. We do that here. I mean, we live in a cul-de-sac and everybody waves. There's one guy who walks. It's actually very interesting because he doesn't speak a lot of English, so I don't really know what his deal is, but he walks backwards through the neighborhood, which to me is a neuroplastic exercise. So to me, I'm like, does he have does he have a condition? Or is he just really smart and he's trying to, keep his brain because he's getting older? But I can't talk to him because he speaks Japanese, and I tried to learn Japanese and failed horribly. So we just wave. My littlest one calls him the walkie wavy guy. And that's how it is. We're like, hey, how's it going? Here you go. Happy Wednesday.
We play pickleball. There's a group of deaf pickleball players. And when we play with them, I try to talk to them, and it's hard for them to read my lips. So one day I opened up my phone and I opened up a note and I just talked to text, and I would show it to him, and then he would type something back, and we were communicating like that.
That's smart. That's smart. I worked in an outlet mall. We had that at one of my jobs. Just iPads.
Yeah, they have Google Translate just updated
Like-
itself and it's using AI now.
I just,
yeah.
So it's all fancy.
especially in
Oh, you're buffering.
where we live.
No, it's
Well,
close to the hour. I don't know why it always does that at close to the hour.
either way to you.
That's the problems with being live.
Yeah. Yeah, we've had that before too. Like,
Yeah, have you used StreamYard before?
no, we used to, what did we use the last time? I'm trying to think of it. I can't think of the name of the podcast, but I did this with Grace Strong, and the same thing happened. Like, it's just
I think
stuff after. There you go. Now you're back.
Kind of.
Sort of.
Yeah, but we are coming up to the 3:00 hour.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So I enjoy getting to know you, and I think that's so awesome. I'm gonna go and I have to watch. Is it on Instagram?
The podcast, we do the YOPN Living Well Starts Here podcast, which is, I mean, it's on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and you can link to it from the YOPN website. You know, I believe Tom and Anna are friends, so he probably knows all about it. But it's a good conversation, you know, and we've had some good feedback from people kind of just saying that, like, it's nice to hear others just talk about life in general, you know, because like sometimes when you get diagnosed, you're like, how am I going to do anything?
Sorry, I changed computers.
I said it's coming up to 3:00 hour. That's why.
That's crazy.
I haven't. Where I live, we have the upstairs bedroom. There's 2 upstairs bedroom, and like I call one's my son's, one's my daughter. And I tried setting up a little office here, and my laptop is rather old. It doesn't, like, we have 5G network, but laptop will only go up like to 2.4 gigahertz. I got a little dongle that's supposed to help, and it didn't. So this is the frugal part of me. I tried a $13 dongle to see if that worked, as opposed to, $400 for a new laptop.
Oh yeah, I do that stuff all the time. I'm like the queen of cheapness.
No, there's a difference between cheap and frugal. Never be cheap.
It really is. It really is frugality. Yeah. I tell my kids all the time, I love free things. I love free things.
So if I were to call my daughter right now and say, honey, what's your favorite food? Guarantee you she'll say free food, because we all love free food.
Yep. My mom used to be like what they used to call a sweeper. She would like put in for all those free things from different companies. She spent all day on the computer putting in, like, she didn't have to buy Christmas presents for like 10 years. It was like, I mean, she would win everything. And
That's awesome.
She would win trips to New Orleans and California, Napa Valley, California, and the NCAA, one of those, and NASCAR trips, and then
awesome.
she finally won a car, and then she stopped. She won a little Fiat, and it was perfect for her because she's only like 5'2". So she had kept that for years, and now she just plays bingo all day on the computer.
I want to throw the option out there. We generally stop around 3, but we can go as long as you would like. You're the guest. I mean, you want to.
I'll probably have to jump off soon. I have to pick up kids in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we just, at this point, then one of my many viewers, I think maybe I'm one of 5 perhaps. How do I find you?
Let's see. I'm on Instagram. Instagram handle is @MissMLive, or Parkinson, hashtag Parkinson's look like me. I am on TikTok as Undeniably Honeybee, because my name means honeybee in Greek, and that's something my mom used to call me when I was younger.
Aww.
And I'm on Facebook, Melissa Livingston.
There you go.
And if you're really industrious, we do the YOP podcast twice a week, so you can go to YOP Network and find me there.
That's Anna Grill's place, right?
Yeah.
She's cool. Matter of fact,
I
that's
love-
when I saw you. I was on the last meeting, and I don't know if you saw it, but I tried to send you a chat saying,
Oh yeah, I didn't see it until after, and then I was like, oh shoot, and I didn't know if you meant that you were still on, and I was like, darn, I didn't look at the. I was like, I was really off that day, so like when I was at the meeting, and I arbitrarily I logged in late. It was actually kind of funny, and I somehow ended up in a breakout room with a bunch of other people with Parkinson's that were from New York City.
Mm.
And I'm originally from New York, so I was ecstatic. I was like, oh my gosh, all these people are saying bad words and stuff. This is really fun time. They don't do that in Texas. I was like, this is exciting for me.
So you have to do one small favor for me. If you know Julie Obreeder, right?
Yes.
Next time you talk to her, just tell her that I was probably the most intelligent conversation you've ever had with somebody in a long time. She was one of those two when I got to meet her. I said, man, you're just a prettier version of me. I like you.
She's sweet. She comes to our we do like a Sunday night like group chat on Google Meet, and she's usually there more often than not.
I joined her Wednesday night group chat for a little bit. She does it Wednesday as well.
Oh, does she do Wednesday? I didn't know about the Wednesday. I haven't been on in a little while because I've been so dystonic that by the time, and like I'm running around with the kids all weekend. So by the time Sunday night comes, I'm like, I don't know. You know, like I took the girls to the beach, my two girls, and my niece, to the beach, and the waves were like perfect, and the sun was perfect, and the water was warm. And I was like, oh God, I had such a great time that like I never went off until I got home. 15 minutes after I got home, I went off, but I was off, and I was off all the next day. Plus I got my butt kicked because the waves were like beating me down. and I'm just laughing, not thinking about what's going to happen tomorrow. And I was in the water for like 3 hours, which if you ask my oldest two, I probably have not cumulatively been in the ocean that long. Like all the years that we went to the Jersey Shore, there was no way it was happening.
Did your skin shrink up like a little, like a raisin from being in the water?
Yeah, it was like my fingers were all pruny. Once I started to feel weird, I looked at my littlest one because she's got all sorts of sensory things, so we understand each other better now. And I'm like, look at my fingers, and Elena goes, I'm ready to leave. And I was like, me too. And that was it. We got in the car, we went home. I was so tired the next day, so I missed the group the last 2 weeks. I don't know what's going on now.
Well, so we can call it a day. I just want to say and then Katrina jump in some parting words. There are people in this world that are doers and want to help other people. And Melissa, you are one of those people. Katrina and myself are one of those people. And if you are out there and you're seeing this podcast, yes, you have Parkinson's. Yes, it sucks. But you've got to find the good in your life. You got to find those things that give you passion, and try not to. I know it's easier said than done, but try not to focus on the fact that you have Parkinson's. Just live your life with knowing that you have certain parameters now. But just please live your life.
Yeah, don't give up, and never forget you're not alone.
Yeah.
There are many of us out here, and to walk that walk right beside you, whether it's actually walking it with you, or just virtually. We're here for you, and always, and just never give up. I mean, that's always been my thing. My dad always says, just get back up and ride that horse again. And and I'm going to dedicate this one to his memory. He was our biggest fan.
I'm sorry. Yeah. From what you told me, he sounded like a great. It's one of those things where you feel like, other than anything you need, you can call me.
I appreciate it very much. So
I'm here too. If you can't come to the light, I'll sit with you in the dark. That's what we do.
So I like to leave you with two things. One is,
you don't need a glass. Just go ahead and drink right out of the carton.
that's my.
How you do it?
This is my little wife saying.
A new reversible drill. Oh, honey, it is just what I needed.
I like to do that to throw a little humor at the end. And for those who are of age, I'm so glad we had this time together. Thank you. Well, It has been, Katrina, it's great to see that you're back. It's good. Looking forward to all the things we're going to do. And Melissa, it's been an absolute pleasure. And I look forward to doing this again.
Absolutely. Anytime.
I'm going to send you some homework later that I need from you then.
That works for me.
Cool.
And I'm definitely going to check out your Instagram and everything. So
And I just want to leave you
pleasure.
with one thing. For a woman with Parkinson's, you look great.
Oh, thank you.
You're very welcome.
I had Parkinson's. I didn't say I was ugly.
All right,
Take care.
take care.
Take
Hey,
care.
Katrina, you want to hang on?
Yep, I'm here.
Let's start the stream.
And stream.
I'm moving the wrong button. How do I? Okay. These are my